The people who lived from 1880 to 1970 lived in a different world than the people of Dardanelle do today. And their story needs to be told.
This week on Made in Arkansas, I sit down with Dr. Diane Gleason as we discuss her upcoming book about the people and history of Dardanelle, Arkansas.
I was born in Dardanelle in 1948 and spent my childhood there. My parents were both business people. My father was a graduate of the University of Arkansas and my mother graduated from Hendrix College. And they moved back to Dardanelle in 1937 and went into business with my grandfather, Jack Boyce, in the Dardanelle Mercantile Company on Front Street in Dardanelle that had been established by my grandfather's uncles in 1883. On my mother's side of the family, we go back 5 generations to the Boyces moved to Dardanelle in 1868 from Georgia. And my father's family moved from Logan County in the 1890s. And they actually moved, the Gleasons did, down to New Neely, where Joe Gleason, my grandfather, had 1,000 acres of land that he cleared himself, raised cotton, had a gin, had a plantation store, and ran his farm with mainly tenant farming laborers. I believe that I, as an early child, until say the early 1960s, witnessed the end of the real cotton agricultural era in Dardanelle and Yell County. And I have very, very fond memories of that time period from 48 to the early 60s. And then I began to see, as a teenager, the real emergence and strength of the poultry industry as it came into the area, and a complete change in the relationship of the rural to the town when that began to occur. I think the fact that my father grew up in New Neely, in the Bottoms, I think the fact that my mother's family has deep, deep business ties in Dardanelle going back multiple generations, and a strong sense of allegiance to Yell County while I was a child. I think all of those things kind of came together and made me very interested in the Bottoms. And when I started this project a number of years ago, I really didn't know very much about the Bottoms. I had a very kind of romanticized view of it, but I've learned a lot in my research. But I think that it's just part and parcel of the heritage of my family. My family always, my father especially valued land and saw it as a source of wealth. Both my mother and father valued hard work and economic success and reward for that hard work. And so I think an interest in the Bottoms and a vibrant memory of what Dardanelle was like when I was a young child, which is so different than what Dardanelle is now, made me wonder, what happened and why did it happen? I'm working on a book that's going to be the history of Dardanelle, the town, and the Dardanelle Bottoms from roughly 1880 to 1970. I'm using the Post-Dispatch as my most basic primary source of information. They have almost all of the issues, the weekly issues, from in the 1850s all the way up until at least, I think, the 1980s. They have what I need anyway. And I have been for about 2 years employing some tech students to go over and copy those things. So I have hard copies, and then I read them and make notes from those, and then I write. The people who lived from 1880 to 1970 lived in a different world than the people of Dardanelle do today. and their story needs to be told. This is very much, I think, will add to the literature on Southern history, rural history, Arkansas history, and I want their story to be a part of that mosaic. It should be. There's some dynamics that we see in other places that played out in Dardanelle and the Dardanelle Bottoms also, and sometimes with kind of a different wrinkle or a different twist to them. And so I think it's a rich history that needs to be told. I think Arkansas people are gritty and determined, and they have a wonderful kind of dark sense of humor in order to survive. And I think they're very ingenious and hardworking in most cases.